Hello. Welcome and welcome back to the United Mates Football Podcast. I'm joined as ever, by my co-host Joe. If you're watching this, you're going to see us both proudly supporting our team's favorite colours. Today was the North London Derby, and we're going to be doing our first recap of a fixture on this podcast. So, Joe, I'd imagine you're probably in a better mood than I am post North London Derby. But otherwise, how are you doing?
Hello, Keitel. Yeah, as you can imagine, feeling on top of the world. We're top of the league, just beating Arsenal in the North London Derby. To be honest, I'm quite impressed that you're still up for doing this. I applaud you for speaking so soon after the match. But it's been a good weekend, and this is just the cherry on top of a nice weekend, really, the 2-0 win.
Yeah, as we were just talking before we started this call about Wolves and Liverpool playing currently, and that result, if it holds, it's 0-0 at the minute, is only going to make the weekend even sweeter. But as I mentioned, this is our first sort of foray into match recaps, and we're just just going to freestyle it and see how it goes. But obviously, Spurs won 2-0. Harry Kane scored the eventual, winner. Son put you 1-0 up. And that was all sort of done and dusted by half time. So we might as well start with the first half. What did you make of it?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first half, from a Tottenham fan's perspective, couldn't have realistically gone any better than it did. Like you said, arguably, when Kane smacked it in off the bar to make it 2-0, you could argue the game was maybe done at that point. Not that I was thinking that, but I guess given the way the game went, you could say that. And I think it was kind of classic Mourinho. We sat back, we let you come to us, and then we tried to pick you off on the counter-attack, although I don't think anyone anticipated that Son would bang one in. I mean, it's just another Tottenham wonder goal in recent years. We seem to have a bit of a habit of scoring these. But I was sad that I wasn't at the game, but my dad and I were going pretty wild when that one went in, that's for sure.
It was a good goal. If I wasn't an Arsenal fan, it might have gotten me off my seat in another life, but...
Absolutely.
Just on that goal, I mean, I don't know what you as a Spurs fan, I'm sure you just enjoyed it essentially, but I don't know if you were aware of at the time of the pretty poor defending taking place by Arsenal in terms of, I believe it was Bellerin just backing off, and then holding between the two of them. I think they couldn't decide which one was going to go to Son, which one was going to mark the runner, and you can't take anything away from the finish. I mean, it was pretty much unstoppable.
I have some sympathy with the Arsenal defenders just because he must have been 30 plus yards out when he smacked that in. So whereas probably one of them should be closing him down, no one's really anticipating it because it reminded me a bit of Harry Kane's goal from a few years ago, but from a more straight angle. And he's just the curl. Oh, it was, as you can see, it was lovely. But that happened. And then, I guess from that point, we kind of had you where we wanted you. That's, the Mourinho team, when they go 1-0 up, and as we're sort of becoming more of a typical Mourinho team, we probably went last year, they don't tend to let it slip from that point. And I think, ironically, when we got the second goal, you were actually kind of on top at that point. It looked more like, if anything, that you'd maybe nick a goal before half-time. But I guess what were you thinking? Obviously, we went 1-0 up early. Were you worried at that point, given how the form's been? Were you oh God, it's done, or were you still pretty positive and thought you'd get back into it?
Yeah, I mean, it's you have to look at two sets of form. Obviously, you guys are top, and we're closer to the bottom. So, in terms of our form, once we went behind, I wasn't, and we're on quite a goal drought as well. So I wasn't too optimistic that we were going to turn it around necessarily. And then, of course, your form, you guys are top. So you've been shutting out these games. And then, add to that the Mourinho factor. You got 1-0 up early in a game at home. So it wasn't looking too great. But at the end of the day, we've got enough talented players in the squad who've sort of been there and done that. And in North London derbies even before, the likes of Aubameyang and Lacazette. So with them on the pitch, I always thought there was a chance. But I mean, we sort of came close to coming close a couple of times. We never maybe there was that Lacazette header that Lloris pushed around the post in the second half. That was genuinely maybe the closest that we came. We sort of flattered to deceive. But at this point, given the run of sort of losses that we're on, I am looking for positives, and I could probably find a few, but that's just, I think the alternative is me being here on this call very, very depressed. So yeah, I'm going to try to look for a few positives. But
we don't want an Arsenal fan TV moment where suddenly you're depressed or you go on some like rant which goes viral or something.
Well, the viral part maybe, but
yeah, I mean, I take it like a rant about Arsenal losing, but yeah, I want to save you some face as well.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess let me flip that on you and ask. In general, what did you make of Arsenal today?
I guess like before the game started, I felt the same as I did that year, the last ever game at White Hart Lane, where that season we had been better. It was the one we finished second, and on paper we should have been beating you easily. And I think we ended up doing it. But even so, you're always a bit nervous in these games because you're just thinking, oh God, is this going to be the game where Arsenal turn up and sort of do you? But no, I thought Arsenal were more or less kind of how I expected they'd be in a way. They were clearly up for it. In fairness, in the second half, they had a lot of the ball. They were pressing Spurs a bit. They kept winning the ball back. And Tierney looked great. I mean, he was really crossing the ball into the box. But a bit like Alex Scott was just saying on Sky Sports. She was the pun. I don't know if you got a Sky Sports link or not, Kai. But she was basically saying it's all well and good like getting all these crosses in the box, but you kind of need you need like a Giroud in there to head in, and Arsenal didn't have it. So I kind of felt like, yet again, it seems to be a constant theme this season for Arsenal. You just lack a bit of identity. You're not a bad team, but no one really knows what you're trying to do. You just don't have a creative player. So it's like, yeah.
Well, that brings me to a couple of points. I don't have a Sky Sports over here in the States. I have to find other more sort of like nefarious ways to watch these games. But in terms of mentioning not having a focal point, even, we don't have that player in our squad in terms of a Giroud. We just don't have that player unless you're going to put Rob Holding up front. So otherwise, we reached a point today where we might as well have. But otherwise, honestly speaking, even Nketiah is more that focal point than Aubameyang in terms of a disciplined striker that likes to sniff out goals, a header here, a flick on here, getting in front of his man. And there was an earlier part of the season when we were dropping Lacazette, I think, and playing Aubameyang on the left with Nketiah through the middle, and it was confusing me, and I wasn't a fan of it. I like Nketiah, but I didn't think he was ready to be starting games in the Premier League. At this point, probably once it reached around an hour in the game, I thought, we might as well hook Aubameyang for Nketiah today, because what's Nketiah going to do? Try even less hard than Aubameyang was? It's really the Aubameyang thing's concerning, because I think last season, I don't know if he had conversations with Arteta about sort of like conserving his energy in terms of an attacking player, because he's always had a decent work rate defensively, especially when we play him on the wing. But going forward, I think maybe last season he was really picking his moments sparingly to use his energy. And I think this season he's overthinking it, and he's really, really trying to pick his moments, but we don't have enough creativity in midfield. So those moments are few and far between, and inevitably he's out of form. So when he goes to try to do whatever it is, the best thing he did today was that shot that Alderweireld blocked.
Brilliant block.
Really good block, and decent play from Aubameyang to just take the shot kind of early rather than mess around. And that was, it was a block shot, but that was the best thing he did all game. And it was a shot getting blocked, so it was rubbish. He might as well have not been on the pitch.
It's interesting with him because I don't think no one's really debating how good he is. He's one of the best strikers in the Premier League, if not in the world. But I don't know if obviously he signed the contract. I don't know if maybe his motivation's gone down a bit. But also this whole thing that seems to have come up on a few of our more Arsenal-themed episodes is, I know he wasn't today. He's been playing out wide too much this season. I don't know if he's forgotten how to score, but it's like he doesn't seem the same player that we're sort of used to seeing in Aubameyang. And I mean, I hope it continues, but it feels to have been a real error from Arteta that really lose it, because you lose Aubameyang's goals, and as you can see, Arsenal without Ozil kind of pulling the strings, you don't really then have a main man anymore. You're just a sort of a pretty bland team, which I can't say I've ever seen an Arsenal team this bland. Even at the end of the Wenger era, it felt like you still had a bit more about you than you do now. So yeah, I think, I mean, I'm not upset about this. I think Arteta has got a really big job on his hands for the rest of the season, just to save it almost, just for it not to get completely go to get worse. And it feels like it could. I think you got Burnley next, Burnley away or something. Even at home, like that's not an easy game right now. They're going to be up for it. They know if it's at the Emirates, which it might be, you've lost so many games there. And yeah, I don't know. I think anyone playing Arsenal at the moment is going to be up for it and think that they can win. And it was never like that in the past. Never.
Yeah. The only silver lining about the whole Aubameyang fiasco is that like we've somehow managed to create a bigger catastrophe almost than the Ozil situation. So it's like nice to divert a bit of attention from that. But no, I'm joking. Like Aubameyang, it's very odd. Like I think when you're a goal scorer that's not scoring goals and not getting service, inevitably you're going to drop deeper to just get more of the ball. Because otherwise you really are standing on the pitch for 90 minutes, hardly getting a touch. The problem with Aubameyang is that we don't want him to drop deep and get the ball. We want him to stay up there, to be on the last man, to wait for the through ball. But there is an Ozil-sized hole in the sort of attacking midfield space behind Aubameyang, where in theory you would like someone to be collecting the ball. And now today, Lacazette performed that role relatively capably. I think leading up to that block from Alderweireld that we were talking about, Lacazette actually played a really good forward pass to Aubameyang. And Lacazette is someone who is more comfortable at dropping deep, holding the ball up, playing on the half turn, playing with his back to goal, bringing other players into the game. So that was a positive. Saka's performance again in moments was a positive. In theory, if you've got these guys sort of like running full pelt towards the opposition goal, Aubameyang, Lacazette, Saka, Willian maybe less so, it should be a goal threat. But between poor form and I think overcoaching from Arteta, it's just not coming off.
He's got to find, yeah, like you say, he's got decent players at his disposal. Whatever he's been doing this year, clearly it's not working. I guess the challenge for Arteta now, he's got to kind of prove his worth a bit. And look, no one's saying now this season in the Premier League is certainly not looking that positive, but he's got to just find a different way to get the best out of them. Look at Mourinho, even kind of after lockdown in that weird little period when there were games. I know we beat you, but we were quite lucky that day. And we had some games where we were terrible, and we were this kind of similar to how you are now. We kind of lacked identity. Everyone was saying Kane was finished, which is, I mean, yeah, now, which is just funny to think given he's, yeah, well, I'm sure we'll get onto that. But yeah, the challenge for Arteta now is to kind of reinvent the wheel a little bit, which maybe he didn't think he'd have to do this soon, but maybe in the long run, this is a good thing for him. I hope it's not, but he's kind of got to change things. Otherwise, I could see it getting. I can't believe I'm saying this. You're 15th, I think. It could get worse. You're not going to get relegated, but in the short term, it could get worse.
Yeah, I'm sort of telling myself that we can't get relegated. Likewise, so I've sort of written off the Premier League at this point. Even though had we won this game, the top four would have been like a very real thing, and it's just one game, and there's lots to play. So you can't say that it's over. On the form that we are in right now, though, it is more likely to get worse before it gets better. So, yeah, at the end of the day, we need to turn things around sooner rather than later because there's only so many games in a season, and you never know.
I think, or just go for the cups. You seem to be a bit of a cup team these days, so maybe just sack off the league. Just don't get relegated, obviously. I mean, but don't from your side, and then win. Well, I guess win the Europa League, but that's easier said than done, obviously.
I just don't think Arteta's the guy to be ruthless like that, to drop senior pros for youngsters just to sort of like bring forward the process of sort of rebuilding. I don't think he's necessarily been in the game long enough to feel assured within himself enough to say, Willian, we've just brought you in on a 2-3 year contract for, upwards of £100,000 a week, but actually you're going to you are my bench player, like you are a sub. I don't think he has it within himself to do that to someone like Willian, to someone like Xhaka, bizarrely, who looked like he'd sort of like his Arsenal career was over in the Emery days, but has managed to come back into the fold. But he really does need to begin to distance himself from these players. The players like Willian, like Xhaka, like even Hector Bellerin in terms of starters in his team. They're not going to take us anywhere. Where they're taking us is the path that we're on right now. And it needs to change.
If he's not, like you said, it will in the short term get worse, which is just going to make things more toxic, and there's going to be more Arsenal fan TV weird videos and stuff. But the thing is, the positive and the reason why I don't see why he wouldn't is because it does seem like Arsenal actually do have quite a lot of good young players that if they're giving some game time in the Premier League, they're not going to do worse than what the current bunch are doing. I mean, they and if anything, they might do a little bit better. And also, quite frankly, at this point in the season, don't embarrass yourselves in the league. But he's already won a trophy for Arsenal. You got to the Europa League final a year or so ago. Like, just go for the FA Cup, or you're still even in the Carabao. I mean,
yeah, we're gonna get knocked out of that by Man City quite soon. But
oh shit, I forgot you had Man City.
But in terms of the talented youngsters, I think that relatively within the Premier League, we are in a good position in terms of academy players that will end up being Premier League quality players. Whether or not at Arsenal, that's a different story. But I just think that I don't know where the lack of confidence in some of these players come from. You look at someone like Saka, and whilst I'm glad that he's not like a Dele Alli, mouthing off and being all flash and stuff, like, I'm glad about that, but he's quite a timid character, as is someone like a Reece Nelson, as is someone like Joe Willock. Gabriel Martinelli, on the other hand, and Matteo Guendouzi, who at this point isn't really worth talking about, they had a bit of steel to them. I don't know if it's because they're not English and they didn't necessarily feel the same pressure of being an academy product, but beyond that, you look at someone like Mason Greenwood, you look at someone like Phil Foden. These guys are quite fearless and they take risks on the pitch. I think the only reason they can do that is because either their manager has given them the confidence to do that and to know that if they make a mistake, that he's not going to shout at them. And that the senior players in the squad likewise have bought into the fact that they have youthful players who inevitably will make a mistake here and there, but they're not on their back when it happens. I don't know if Arsenal players are digging each other out in training or they're forming factions. Clearly Lacazette and Aubameyang are quite tight and they're two of the more senior players. I don't know if there is a divide in terms of like the younger players and the more senior pros at Arsenal, but one way or another, it seems like the youngsters who arguably have the most talent and inevitably other teams are going to know the least about because they haven't been around for as long. So these are the guys that we really should be using to sort of.
I'd say, even though I think that you should start playing them more, the one difference between Foden and Greenwood, between like a Reece Nelson, not Saka, because I actually think Saka's really good, but like a Reece Nelson, Joe Willock, those kind of guys, they're good, but they're not quite on that level. But I think you're right. Maybe that lack of confidence from them comes from the fact that they've grown up a bit like you, I guess, seeing Arsenal, these brilliant Arsenal teams that used to make my life a misery when I was a little kid. And they probably know that, like, deep down, they're not at that level. They're never going to be able to kind of. But the thing is, they've kind of got to, a bit like how Arsenal fans used to laugh at Spurs for, like, our past glories are in the past. You kind of, to some extent, have to move on from that time and just kind of go for the time being. We're a different team now. If we can get top four, that's great. And you're probably maybe one player short, two players short. You're not far off top four if it all gels together. I just feel like, yeah, you're right. They need a bit more confidence. And also, going back to the Martinelli guy, he actually is very good again. And it's been unfortunate that just after that kind of wonder goal against Chelsea, where suddenly everyone thought, you've got your new star, he got injured fairly soon, I think, after that.
Yeah, and it was quite a bad injury as well. He's been out for a while. That affect
him, but you've got to assume he's probably going to come back and be quite good. It might be too late by the time he comes back, but yeah. Let's talk about Tottenham, though, Kai.
Yeah, let's do that. Why not?
Why don't you? I'll let you say whatever you want to say.
Yeah. Well, I mean, was I impressed today? Yes and no. Does anybody really want to be impressed by watching that type of performance? Like, not really, but was it solid? Have they bought into it? Yes. Were you sort of quietly in control and maybe more comfortable than it appeared at times? Yeah, seemingly so, because we didn't, we hardly troubled Lloris. Like you said, I think it's inevitable when the opposition has a lot of possession to feel some sort of tension, but realistically, Mourinho has taken you guys quite a long way, and in terms of a defensive unit. So I think that you might have those moments throughout this season where you go 1-0 up and then concede a lot of possession. And inevitably, it looks like more times than not, you're going to see it out. And while teams are attacking you, you've got, Son and Kane. That second goal, the first goal and the second goal, it was the same thing. It was just a break, and you knew it was coming. But just because you know something's coming doesn't mean you can necessarily stop it. At the end of the day, Kane and Son are exceptional footballers, but the naivety at which Arsenal played into Spurs' hands for both of those goals also is telling. So was I super impressed by Spurs? I don't know if I'll ever be impressed in the sense that I sort of think about when I'm thinking about a football team playing football, but does it give me fear that you guys can go on and be successful under Mourinho is probably a better question. And the answer would be yes. And I think that applies to cup competitions and more scarily into the Premier League at this point. Things can change. It's a long season, but at this point, you couldn't argue that Spurs aren't in the title race.
Yeah, I mean, today, and to be honest, look, the last 3 games, we played City, Chelsea, Arsenal. We've won 2 of them. We've drawn 1. We've conceded no goals. Realistically, yeah, maybe it would be nice to beat Chelsea, but we literally never win at Stamford Bridge apart from that one time a few years ago. Like, it's gone as well as it could have done. Like you said, Son and Kane at the moment are almost on a different level to like anyone else in the Premier League. So if you have a team that is set up, knows their roles, it can be at times boring, or I'm not going to lie, like quite scary when like you said, when the other team has the ball. As a Tottenham fan, I'm just programmed to thinking that the other team is going to score eventually. Like I was convinced that Arsenal would get a goal and it would be like some horrible final 10 minutes, but they didn't. I just think it's so exciting at the moment because for the first time, it's too early to get too excited, but for the first time ever under Mourinho, like the style of football we're playing, it feels like the players are confident in they know what they're meant to be doing on the pitch. All the players, we've got this centre midfielder in Højbjerg now who is brilliant, and he's a general, and I can't really remember ever having someone like that, and it kind of puts you at ease because even in that second half, there'd be times that he'd snuff out the ball, and just when Arsenal were looking like they were going to do something, he just make you at ease, as I was saying. And then Son and Kane, I mean, you can't go wrong with those two at the moment. On Sky Sports, again, I'll go back to after the game, they were trying to be a bit talk sporty and kind of be like, will Tottenham fans be happy with this? Like, what happens if they start losing games? Well, if we start losing games, obviously we're going to be annoyed. But at the moment, we're playing in the most negative way I've seen Spurs play ever, and we're top of the league. Like, how, as a fan, what more can you ask for? We just beat our rivals 2-0. We're top of the league. It's great.
It would even be sort of ironic for me to try to poke holes in that too, because even when we were successful, the times we have been successful under Arteta, I should say, the style of football that we've played has not been good. It's been defensive, counter-attacking football. That's how we won the FA Cup. That's how we were successful last season. So football's a results-based game, and you'd have to be playing some pretty dreary stuff to not enjoy winning every game. So it's not quite at that level. Like you guys still, you scored an exciting goal with,
arguably it's going to be up there for one of the goals of the season. Kane, we scored another great goal. We had some moments where we looked good, and even defensively, Toby's done an amazing block. Højbjerg has worked his socks off again. I would struggle to find any Tottenham. I know that the media keep pushing it, and again, there's the Mourinho thing, and they're trying to get reaction out of people, but I don't think there is one Tottenham fan in the world now. Yeah, we're top of the league, but I don't like that we're playing this negative. Of course, no one's going to say that. And actually, maybe as depressing as it is, maybe we should have started playing like this a few years ago. We're never going to be the most talented team on the pitch, even though we've got Son and Kane. We're never going to compete with City. To some extent, even Liverpool seem to outspend us. But Jose, he's got a squad now that he knows is really talented. He's got a way of playing that he's always liked to play. He's finally got the players to buy into that. And now slowly, I think that, not even slowly, I think this season, finally, the Kanes and the Sons actually think, you know what, I'm in a team that can win something. Kane's post-match interview, he looked calm, confident, not too, obviously he's buzzing, he's won, but he's focused on something bigger than we've ever tried. He wants to win the league. And as you said, look, it's so early, but it feels for the first season ever sort of realistic. Like it would be a shock still, but you can't argue that it would be that much of a surprise now because Tottenham have never played like this. I think it's as simple as that. We've got the Mourinho factor going now. We've never had that kind of, I don't know, really, I'm trying to think of a word. It's kind of just that shrewdness to get ahead and just do what you kind of have to do and just win.
It's because he's turned you into a bunch of C words. And it's true. I was thinking that during the game. You've probably had players in the past who've annoyed me more.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And Højbjerg is a good player. But him and Lo Celso were a bunch of C words today. The rest of the team, like, that's just how they roll. Like that. And again, when it's your team and you're winning, I'm not going to complain about it. If Arsenal won today and sort of pushed the line of fair play, although you didn't necessarily do that, but like I said, there was some sort of
it swings and roundabouts as well, because I sort of accept that. But then look at Xhaka and Lacazette today. It's an awful London. But let's go back again. We'll go back in the history books for Arsenal. The Invincible team, one of the best one of the best English football teams ever. They were a nasty team. They were
even Bergkamp supposedly is one of the nasty. I think all the Arsenal players say in terms of training, Bergkamp was vicious.
Yeah, so that's what I mean. And also, you didn't like Pochettino. You would have hated with Dele and Pochettino's team back when we had Harry Redknapp. Yeah, I'm sure that to some extent, maybe we're a little bit more unlikable now because we are a bit tough and a bit kind of like we're willing to kind of be a bit Machiavellian and just do what it takes to win. But everyone's always hated Tottenham. So, we might as well, if we're going to be hated, we might as well like start winning and stuff. And at least that seems to be the Mourinho factor now. Yeah, we're always going to be that team that people are going to kind of laugh at. And if we mess up, we're going to be taking the piss out of. But at the moment, no one can really take the piss out of us because for once, we're just actually doing what needs to be done. So, yeah, hallelujah.
It's
finally.
It's almost, it's interesting that where you guys have been so outwardly and obviously successful this season with regards to being a counter-attacking team and specifically with Kane and Son. I'm not saying that Mourinho took that from Arteta or anything like that, but it's just funny that is how, like I was saying, that's how we were successful at the end of last season. And it is a good tactic, but it does require everyone to have bought into it. And that's happening right now at Spurs. You've made good signings with someone like Højbjerg, who, regardless of the technical performance that he puts in on the pitch, is going to fight and is going to communicate with his players in front of him, beside him, and behind him. And
he's a leader. He's a leader, and that's you.
And Eric Dyer is a leader as well, regardless again of the performance that he's going to give you, technically speaking. Harry Kane is not as much. Exactly. He's not as vocal necessarily on the pitch, but he is a leader. So where we are lacking in leadership, Spurs, through their spine, we've just mentioned, that's Kane, Højbjerg, Dyer. Your captain is Lloris. So literally through the spine of the team, you have a leader in goal, defense, midfield, and attack. We arguably have maybe one leader throughout that spine of the team in our entire squad, who is Aubameyang, and that is more of a token gesture with the armband than
that's coming. Yeah,
exactly. So it's just realistically, not to take credit away from Tottenham's squad, you have to place a lot of credit on them and on Mourinho and his coaching team, because clearly they do a lot of preparation for these games. Your game plan isn't massively different each week, but you could see today how once they were aware of Lacazette as a creative presence in the midfield, that between your defense and your midfield, they squeezed up on him so much that he could just not get the ball into feet. And that nullified our attacking threat through the middle of the pitch, at least. And then once we got more joy down the wings, he brought on Ben Davies and gave you guys wing backs to counter our wing play. So he's such a good game-by-game tactician. I'm sure he has people in his ear around him who are also good at that, doing the video analysis and whatnot. But essentially, what you've done is you've moved into a new stadium. You've hired one of the most successful managers in recent history, if not the most successful manager in the recent history of football. You've, bumped up your squad with leaders and good players. And you've even incorporated the likes of someone like Ledley King into the coaching team, playing legend who is going to inspire a lot within these players. So is the project a good one? Yeah. Is it? So, am I happy about it? No.
Obviously not. But the thing is, you kind of made the point, I think, earlier on when you basically said, like, yeah, we sort of, everyone knows we're going to sit back a bit and play on the counter attack. But like you were saying, it doesn't really matter if you know we're going to do that, because when you have Son and Kane, and Kane especially dropping back, I mean, Kane's, like Arsenal lack creativity. Kane is just taking the piss at the moment with some of his passes. So it doesn't really matter what, because eventually most teams are going to lose the ball to us when they're attacking. If we can then get the ball to Kane, he's got a little bit of space. He's probably more often than not going to find Son. If Son's got a bit of space, he's obviously not going to score a goal like that every week. I mean, I wish he did, but that was a slight anomaly. But he will, if he gets some space and he's through on goal, more often than not, he's scoring. The thing that was interesting, you said, I don't think that Mourinho's got it from Arteta. I think it's the other way around. Mourinho's always been the best when he's been at clubs where there's like the underdog mentality, where he has to, in order for him to succeed, Porto, to some extent even Chelsea in his first spell, Inter Milan as well. It's when he has to kind of, the only way with those teams you're going to really achieve big things is you have to kind of go, everyone needs to buy into this. We're going to play in this way, and you're going to put in 110%. He's done that. And what Arteta was successful at the end of last year was, again, he recognised we're not one of the big boys, we're a challenger. So the way we succeed again is getting that squad mentality right, using your assets like Aubameyang, like whoever else was playing well last year for Arsenal. And yeah, you've lost that, whereas we've totally gained it, and we're lucky in that Kane stepped it up a level. He's now like a 10 and a 9 in one. And Son's raised his game too. But Ledley King as well, I just want to speak about him, because I don't know if you saw, but Tottenham did this funny thing last week, actually, on their Twitter account, which was called Jose Cam. So it's literally a bit like where they literally have this camera that they'll probably do it this week as well. It literally just focuses on Jose Mourinho, and you just get to watch him be Jose Mourinho, basically. But there was a really interesting bit where in the second half of the Chelsea game, Ledley King, out of nowhere, he's quite a placid guy. He runs up. Suddenly you see him going, Eric, organise, Eric. And I honestly think, I don't want to, I'm probably taking far too much from that one clip, but he has made such a difference to that defence, because I think he is someone like Eric Dyer, who I've been openly quite critical of. Now he's got someone like Ledley King. Literally, his role is just to like mentor him, tell him what to do. If you have a legend like that, who was one of the calmest defenders of his game and brilliant, telling you what to do, that's going to give you confidence. And you can see there's a reason why we've got one of the best defences now, because Dyer's more comfortable. We had Toby back today, that was one of his best performances in quite a while. And again, everyone just knows their roles. They feel more confident. The Reece has even upped his game again. He had a dodgy few years. Since Mourinho's been at Spurs, he's looked, I don't know, back to because he was incredible a few years ago, but he looks brilliant again. So whatever Jose's doing, I just want him to continue. And yeah, we'll see. If we are still playing like this in a few months' time, it might be the happiest I've been supporting Spurs in arguably my whole life. So fingers crossed there.
Yes, the one saving grace is that when, and hopefully the day never comes, if it does, that yeah, Mourinho brings you a trophy, you can guarantee that he'll be gone within like 6 months probably.
I don't mind. Like with Mourinho, I mean, I'm not going to hide. I really despised him before he was at Tottenham. Probably like Arsenal fans. Like I didn't like him. Obviously, like I didn't really like his style of football. He was so, the whole Chelsea thing, even going to, he was just someone I found really annoying and just, a bit anti-football. But now, maybe I love the guy just yet. I'll love the guy if we do end up going to the promised land and winning a few things. But it's hard not to really, really like him at the moment, because he's done something that even Pochettino hasn't managed, and he's got us believing, I think. I think that even though Pochettino did a lot for us, I still think that there was never quite this assurance in the Tottenham team. And maybe that's me being a bit overexcited in its early days, but if something feels different about this in a good way. Really.
Yeah, I mean, I hope you're wrong, because that's all I've really got is hope. And I just have to tell myself that you're not going to win the Premier League, because realistically, I think that would be my worst nightmare. I'm just like now, like having like flashes of like Harry Kane like lift it, and it's really will burn itself into my brain, and I won't be able to sleep at night if that happens.
He was there when Arsenal won the Invincibles. He went and
he's probably an Arsenal fan, wasn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, but I kind of like that even more now. A kid that potentially in his early years even played for like Arsenal under-8s. He dyed his hair red, blah blah blah. He's now just become the all-time goal scorer for Tottenham. He loves Tottenham now, and he's our legend. So yeah, it's great. I love it. But yeah, Kai, I was going to say at least you're in LA, so you won't have to sort of see me. And
that's true.
Well, sadly at our school, obviously it was a bit more red than lily white, but oh yeah, I'm just hoping that all this COVID stuff's died down by then, because there needs to be. If there's not a parade, that'd be so sad. But I'm not. I shouldn't even visualize this. I need to just.
Yeah. When are you gonna get the DVD from today?
Oh, I'll take the DVD from the last few weeks. It's been great, and the great thing now is that obviously that was the joke for ages, but
it's still the joke. It's still the joke.
Still the joke, yeah. But you know what? You can have the if we are top, you can have the jokes. But this season, we've beaten United 6-1. We've beaten City, and I'm being kind going up, but still, we've beaten Arsenal, North London derby. It's big. We've gone to Chelsea and not lost, and they are looking good. As much as I hate to say it, but they're going to be there and abouts. We've got Liverpool in. I think we've got Palace next, which won't be easy. They just won 5-1. But if we can get a good result there, Liverpool at Anfield is going to be a really interesting game, because it's another ground like Stamford Bridge we don't tend to win at, but they've got a few injuries, and it feels like it's as good a chance of us as beating them at Anfield in the last few years. And if we could get a win there, then I think I'll really be believing we could win the league. I think that could be a watershed moment, just because, again, it would be something that we just don't do normally. But I assume we'll probably just put 10 men behind the ball and just hope we get that draw and then maybe nick a win. But that's going to be a really interesting one for Spurs.
I guess before we wrap up, let me ask you today, in the context of the season, how big does it feel? Because you're talking about there's still these games that you're looking forward to. That obviously the City one, or sorry, the Liverpool one, for instance, you'd assume could be a bigger game than today's. But even still, how big was it for you to still just carry on winning? And then also, what would your thoughts have been if, for instance, Arsenal had turned it around today and say when we were 1-0 down, leveled it up at 1-1, and then the game sort of just fizzled out from there? How would a draw have felt from your perspective?
Obviously, I would have been gutted. Look, aside from the North London derby, and I know it's tight, but we were still, a team at the top, and you're a team. You're as bad as I've ever seen you. You're 15th now. You're 14th, maybe before the game, whatever. I would have been annoyed, but I guess the fact is that maybe in the past we would have done that. We're not doing that now. We have this steel about us now, where actually, even at the end of that first half, where Arsenal were growing into the game a bit more and actually looking like maybe you'd nick a goal before half time. You've had an attack. We've gone down the other end. I know Thomas Partey's kind of walked off the pitch, which helped, but we've gone and made it 2-0, and mentally at that point, the Arsenal players going at halftime crushed. That felt very un-Tottenham-like, and this is the thing that even that was kind of what if question. I would have been annoyed, but we're not doing that at the moment, and I can only go on what we're doing at the moment. We're doing what we have to do in these games. So long may it continue. Yeah,
well, I won't echo that sentiment, but I will say, because I try to be relatively impartial and humble.
I'm sure also, Kai, there will come a time when we do one of these videos where maybe it will be after a more disappointing Spurs game. So I'm sure you'll get a day when I won't be so happy, and maybe again there'll be brighter days for Arsenal to come. I hope not, but there's still a long way to go, as they say.
Yeah, there is. And on that note, I guess we'll have a few more of these to look forward to, as there are so many match weeks to get through still. I'd say you can pretty much probably expect the majority of reactions to games in which Arsenal and Spurs are involved, but we're not above lending our 2 cents on other teams, as it were. So look forward to a few more of these match recaps. But like I was saying, congratulations to Joe today. Congratulations to Spurs. Collectively, they sit at the top of the table. Gosh, I'll let Joe wrap this up probably, because I'm just
you've done well enough.
I'm a bit sick. I just feel a bit sick. Yeah.
I applaud your how you've been. You've taken this well, and you haven't gone full Arsenal fan TV. So well done on that too. But yeah, I think all that's left to say is I'm delighted. Keitel's not so happy. But if you want to listen to more of us and more kind of episode or interview style content, give us a follow on social media. We're on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and you can follow us at United Mates FP. And then we've also got a YouTube channel. Just type in United Mates Football Podcast. Please subscribe. Please give us good reviews on wherever you're listening to this or watching this. Oh, and and here's Zeus as well, just for some final nice little way to go out on. But yeah, thank you very much, everybody. Come on, you Spurs, and we will see you soon. Goodbye.